So look, right now across the entire tech sector, there's this absolutely fascinating and honestly kind of dangerous narrative unfolding. We're seeing some of the biggest, most influential tech leaders in the world loudly and proudly boasting about how artificial intelligence is letting them replace their human workers. But here's the massive question we really need to ask. Are these tech CEOs playing with a very volatile socio-political fire? I mean, are they risking a massive public backlash just to impress their shareholders for a quarter or two?
That brings us to the insider's warning: AI, layoffs, and the corporate disconnect. Today we are looking at a really stark, urgent message coming from literally inside the tech house itself. Palantir CEO Alex Karp recently delivered a very clear, very blunt warning to his peers about this exact issue. He's pointing out a massive, glaring corporate disconnect between the boardroom's, celebration of AI and the incredibly harsh reality of widespread layoffs.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at celebrating AI job cuts. Then, the imminent public backlash. Third, AI excuses versus reality. And finally, empowering rather than replacing.
All right, moving right into Section 1, celebrating AI job cuts. Is this efficiency or is it arrogance? Right now, the status quo in the tech industry is surprisingly vocal. Like they aren't hiding it at all. As massive headcount reductions continue aggressively through 2026, tech firms are actively highlighting their AI-driven efficiency gains. AI is being publicly cited over and over again as the key factor in these huge restructuring efforts. Executives are literally going out of their way to frame AI as a highly effective worker replacement tool because, well, they see it as a positive signal to the market. It tells Wall Street, hey, we're cutting costs and staying on the absolute cutting edge.
But actually, this brings us to Alex Karp, who's really acting as the disruptive voice here. And he didn't mince words. He specifically targeted major AI leaders, pointing directly to huge figures like OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei. Karp's whole message is basically this: if you lead the charge in framing AI as a way to replace human beings, you really shouldn't be shocked when the humans push back.
Which leads perfectly into Section 2, the imminent public backlash. Or, as Karp frames it, the Bernie Sanders manifesto.
I really want to slow down for a second here and let the gravity of this explosive quote land. Karp said, if you run around saying AI allowed you to fire 2/3 of your workforce, you might as well just go sign up for the Bernie Sanders manifesto. That is a huge statement. What he's pointing out is that by bragging about automating away jobs, tech executives are practically handing free ammunition to their fiercest political critics. They're totally alienating their own employees, and honestly, they're terrifying the voting public.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core disconnect we are talking about. Think of it like two totally different realities coexisting. On one side, you have the executive view. AI creates efficiency, lowers headcount, and naturally boosts corporate profits. To a CEO, that's a massive win. But on the flip side, you have the public view, where AI is seen as this dangerous threat, driving immediate job losses and widening economic inequality. To put a specific face to that public fear, just consider this stark number: 8,000. That's how many employees were laid off by Facebook's parent company, Meta. Following those cuts, Senator Bernie Sanders publicly took to social media to ask a really pointed question. He basically asked, if Mark Zuckerberg is perfectly willing to lay off thousands of his own employees, what do you think his AI will do to the average American worker? And look, politicians across the spectrum are already using these massive tech layoffs to raise alarms about the broader economy. And this is exactly why Karp delivered this ominous conclusion. He said, that fire is going to consume us. He explicitly warns that the American people sense something inherently dangerous in this technology right now. Tech executives seem to assume they can just play with this socio-political fire without getting burned. But Karp, he strongly disagrees. He believes that if the industry doesn't drastically change its messaging, aggressive regulations and massive public opposition are absolutely inevitable. Let's transition to Section 3, AI excuses versus reality. What is the actual truth behind the layoffs? So here is the crucial point. This whole AI narrative might actually just be a really convenient cover story. Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale laid out a timeline, and it perfectly explains what's really going on under the hood. Look back at the massive boom between 2021 and 2023. Tech companies drastically overhired, and frankly, they lowered their talent bars. Now, as we look out toward 2026, those exact same companies are falling woefully short of their super aggressive growth budgets. So, present day, instead of executives admitting they made terrible hiring and budgeting mistakes a couple of years ago, they're simply pretending they have to lay people off because of, quote, AI productivity. Now, consider this incredibly ambitious target, 10x. Because while Palantir criticizes their peers, they fully admit they are heavily using AI to improve their own efficiency. But their strategy is completely different. Alex Karp stated that their goal is to multiply their revenue by 10 times, literally a 10x increase, but doing it without broad sweeping layoffs to get there.
For context, Palantir recently reported having 4,429 full-time employees with an ultimate target of actually getting that down to 3,600 to support that massive 10x revenue growth. But here's the kicker. Karp calls this a crazy, efficient revolution. Why? Because they intend to reach that smaller number just by limiting new hiring and letting natural attrition take its course. That is vastly different than aggressively firing thousands of workers right before an earnings call just to boost your AI optics.
All right, bringing us to our final section. Number 4, empowering rather than replacing, increasing the value of the worker. The true antidote to that dangerous worker replacement narrative is this incredibly vital concept, worker enhancement. Think of it as using AI tools to make your existing employees more skilled, more productive, and fundamentally more valuable, rather than using the tech just to eliminate their roles entirely. Joe Ronsdale firmly believes this, that higher productivity through AI actually makes each individual person worth more to the company, not less.
And Karp echoes this exact sentiment. He paints this amazing picture of a modern enterprise driven by human talent, noting the soldiers at the bottom have gotten much more valuable. His vision is a company with a brilliant executive at the top, and then incredibly talented, creative people with fantastic taste all up and down the corporate stack. Everyone is supercharged by AI rather than replaced by it.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. The warning has officially been issued, and it came from inside the tech industry itself. Bragging about AI job replacement isn't just cruel to your employees, it's a massive socio-political risk that literally invites public rage and strict regulations. So, the big question you should take away from this explainer is this. Will tech leaders realize the danger of their messaging and shift toward worker enhancement, or are they just going to keep playing with fire until it completely consumes them? It is a high-stakes standoff, and it's one we will definitely be watching closely. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer,